Hello and welcome back to the Preppy podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. And as always, I, of course, today have another fabulous episode for all of you. I'm talking with Susan of Vietri, which I am such a huge fan of the brand. I particularly love their vases, but they have so many great pieces. And she actually has written a few books and possibly more on the way. So we talk all about not only how she started the brand, how the brands continue to grow, some tips for entertaining, and the journey of writing her books, as well as a what's down the line in the future. I truly really enjoyed this episode. As always, you can listen on any podcast app as well as watch it on YouTube. So if you want to see some video, feel free to head over to YouTube. But before we get into the full interview, I have a few announcements. The first being that we added one final Camp Preppy for 2026, and that last one will be Barnsley Resort at the end of November. So those are now available. Tickets for that at thepreppypodcast.com. That one is going to be all holidays. So think holiday dressing up, wearing tartan and tinsel, doing holiday crafts, maybe holiday cooking or baking as an activity. The resort is just decorated so beautifully that time of year. It's the perfect location. And we also still have 2 tickets, I want to say, for Kennebunkport, but those are going very fast, and I'm thrilled for that in October. Actually, when this episode goes out, I will be in Colorado for our Camp Preppy Colorado, just enjoying all of the fun. So if you want to learn more about Camp Preppy and what it's all about, I would suggest going to our Instagram, seeing what we're doing this week in Colorado, and going back to saved highlights and scrolling back in old pictures from our past camps in the Berkshires, in the Hamptons, and Dallas. They're just truly such a fun time and fill me up with so much joy. I love meeting people. I love seeing old friends at them. I love all of these preppy hobbies, learning new skills, and just visiting these gorgeous locations. So be sure to go to thepreppypodcast.com, get your tickets for Barnsley Resort in Georgia for the holiday season, end of November, and then, of course, Kennebunkport in October. And if you're not ready to travel but want to join in on the fun, then join us at Club Preppy. All the information on that is also at thepreppypodcast.com. Basically, it's a monthly membership. We do virtual events each month. You get a gift in the mail from me, and we have a great community of other preppy enthusiasts. It's very affordable for what you get. And like I said, you get to meet new friends, learn new skills, enjoy hobbies virtually, and a fun little preppy present in the mail. All right, let's get into this episode. Okay, well, why don't you first let everyone know who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Well, Patricia, my name is Susan Gravely. I am the founder of a company called Vietri, and we started in 1983. And we design and distribute luxury dinnerware, tableware, and accessories for the home and garden. So that is what I do. I am living in Great Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I am at home, uh, not going out for the rest of the day because it's going to be so hot.
Yeah. It's hot up here, even in Pennsylvania. And I am just thrilled to have you on the podcast because I've been a fan of your brand for many years. And what you have is a heritage brand at this point, I feel like. You've been around, stood the test of time. I think your bud vase, that's one of my favorite pieces that you have, is like iconic. You can recognize it everywhere. So I can't wait to dive in and learn more about you and your business today.
Thank you. Yeah, it is the hibiscus vase. We'll talk about it.
Yes. Okay. So let's start at the beginning, though. Tell me about your childhood. Were you entrepreneurial at a young age, like had a lemonade stand? Were you someone that helped your mom set the table and into aesthetics and hosting? Like, what was your childhood like?
I did all of that. My father was in international tobacco, so we had foreigners in our home all the time. And so entertaining, setting the table, serving the drinks in my Sunday dress, or serving the tobacco types when they were from different parts of the world was what I did and loved. And, when I was with all of them, it was only speak when spoken to. But I was excited about the world. We had a globe. Daddy would show all of us, four children, where they were coming from, where Rocky Mount, North Carolina was. And he'd always say, the world is so small. You're only a telephone call or a plane trip away. So I want you all to travel. I was really the only one that loved being with all the guests, but I love being at home. I was a lemonade stander. I was a cheerleader. I was, I made things all the time. One of my most fun things was to go to the Singer sewing machine shop with my mother and buy patterns for my baby brother's clothes. So
Oh,
I would cut them out, she'd make them,
uh-huh.
or making gifts for all my, 20 closest friends when I was little. So
Yeah.
it was always something I loved. I also loved the business end of it. So
Okay.
I was always asking Daddy about how did tobacco get to the United States and what did they do and how is it grown, et cetera. So I was kind of curious on both sides.
That's so great. It sounds like you had a lovely childhood. I love that your parents encouraged you to travel. It sounds like they supported your creativity too. Those are just wonderful stories. So thanks for sharing those.
Yeah,
So
it's
then
absolutely true.
tell me about then when it came time for school. If you went to college, where and what did you end up studying? Was it something with business or was it more on like the interior design, entrepreneurship route? Tell me about that.
Well, Patricia, I was of the generation in my family that everyone went to a girls' school. There
Okay.
was had never been anyone in a co-ed school, and I wanted to go to Carolina. But I applied and got into the same women's college that my grandmother, mother, and sister and aunt had all gone to, called Sweetbriar College.
Okay.
And then in May of that year, they changed the rules and opened the dorms. Well, if you
Oh,
knew Sweetbriar was in the middle of nowhere, also, even from the beginning of my life, I loved to sleep. So 10 o'clock was my sleeping time. And though I dated a lot, they all knew that I like to go home early after a couple of drinks and talking to people and let them go have a party. So it was totally ridiculous that my father came home and said, you're not old enough to go to a school with open hours. So you need to pick a school in North Carolina or South Carolina. And that
okay.
was the decision. So I went to Salem College for 2 years, was real
Okay.
involved. And then I made an agreement with him. If I kept a certain grade point average, I could go to Chapel Hill, which I did. Now,
Amazing.
going to Chapel Hill, the issue was that I could go, but I had to major in education. So
Okay.
I did. I always loved children. I majored in early childhood education. After some years, doing things like living out west, I moved to Boston. I volunteered at Boston Children's Hospital. I got excited. I returned and got my master's in recreational therapy and then started the pediatric outpatient program at Duke. And
Wow.
that was perfect combination for me because it was managing people, meeting with psychiatrists and doctors and families, doing studies with the children and the doctors, as well as playing and loving these kids. So I was always, I always seemed to be involved in things that were creative,
Mhm.
had a business side to it, but
Mhm.
always dealing in art and color and design.
I love that. I mean, I feel like a full circle journey in your college, right? Finally going to where you wanted to go to begin with. And what a rewarding, it sounds like, first career that you had.
It was great. It was great. Unfortunately, my father was sick. I was dating a medical student. I was working like a crazy woman, as I always have, and focusing on failure to thrive infants. So I burned out.
Yeah.
Then I went to New York and went to the New York School of Interior Design. And then My father died, and a couple of years later, my mother took my sister and me to Italy, and there is where Vietri began. So, and there was a couple of years working retail where I would be working with the customers and hiring everybody, and then the owner and I would build two more stores in a year. So I was always kind of growing to the next step.
Yes. So, okay, you go to Italy, and this is where your brand launches. That you have this bug, you want to do something on your own. So, tell me, like, what attracted you to the Italian culture, to these products initially? And then, how did you think, like, I love this, I want to turn this into something, right?
Yeah, well, to back up a little bit, when I was in New York, the last day of studying, two gals and I were walking up Madison Avenue, and there was a sign for a soothsayer, a fortune teller, and the other two said, "Come on, let's go." And we went, and where they stayed 10 seconds, it felt like I stayed about 30 minutes. And she basically told me she saw a lot of color. She saw an ocean. She saw success. She saw some difficulties. So for $20 each, she could light three candles, which I did. And I didn't know what that meant.
Mhm.
Italy was never one of my top places to go. And maybe it's because deep down inside, I knew that was part of this whole feeling I always had that I was going to do something. And Mama and Daddy had chosen this trip. So we had met this gentleman on the airplane flying over, my sister had, and we had been in Positano, and we stayed at a beautiful hotel called Il San Pietro, where this dinnerware pattern we called Campania, which means country, or it's the province of Campania, came from. And then we went up to Florence with our 10 plates. And the first night we had dinner, toasted daddy, drank wine. Francis and I wanted to walk back to the hotel. Mama wanted a taxi. She lost. And then a motorcyclist came by, pushed her, and we lost everything: passports, cash, and traveler's checks. So we ended up calling this man that we had talked to on the plane, who had given us his number. And he saved our lives. I mean, he helped us get passports and all. We told him about the plates, and he said, "If you come back to negotiate prices, call me and I'll go with you and help you negotiate," which
Okay.
he did. So that was in September of 83. Um, Starting a business, you know, I was I was free at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And Frances had just had her second child, and we sat down with a couple at the hotel, and we were telling them about these plates, and he was in clothing manufacturing in New York, and he said, "You clearly love to design. You clearly would be great at building this company. Why don't you not retail, but wholesale and distribute?" And that's how it started, very serendipitously. So um, it's, been that kind of life pattern, which is asking a lot of questions,
Yep.
not being afraid to fail, turning right, hitting a dead end, turning back left, maybe going backwards a little bit. And it was all with asking those questions and meeting this man that we started the company.
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like you asked a lot of questions and more you were open to things, right? You were open to where the universe was taking you, meeting new people, what these options were. And I love that. I think entrepreneurs have to be open to things, have to be flexible. And it sounds like you definitely were, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think women, even more than men, are make fabulous entrepreneurs because we naturally multitask.
Yes.
We naturally ask a lot of questions, and
Mhm.
because we're not afraid of failure. We're not
Yeah.
afraid of that question, and we don't have to act like we know a lot.
Yeah.
So I think women make great entrepreneurs.
I agree 1,000%. So tell me then, did you launch with the plates initially, or what did the assortment look like in terms of product?
Yeah, we did. We launched with four patterns that mixed well together.
Nice.
And I wish I'd thought about them because they're in my cupboard right now. Still use them every day.
Oh, I
And
love
then a separate floral pattern. And the whole gist was, as Vietri has been always, is mix and match whatever you have. Don't
that.
get so caught up in perfection. And so we were showing these things and people loved it. It was very new in the industry. So it was a dinner, a salad, two bowls, and a mug. And I think there were four accessory pieces times five patterns. And
Okay.
that's what we started with.
I think that's so genius. I mean, obviously, I love color and print, so I think mixing and matching, and not only does it make things easier, but it adds like an element of interest, right, to the table and to your tablescape. I think that's just so beautifully done.
Yeah, I agree with you, Patricia. And I also think it shows who each of us is.
Hmm.
That what you've got in your cupboards or the tablecloths that were your mother's or something you just bought are different from everybody else's. So that
Yes.
if you can ease up and say, I'm just going to throw it all together and I'm going to look at what's in my refrigerator and what's at the market and have a few people over
Yep.
and different ages and different people so that you and your, if you have a partner or not, everybody can be together and learn
Yes.
about each other.
Yep. It shows your personality, right?
It
Um,
sure does.
So besides color, what would you say back then and even still to this day makes your brand different than others? Like I know you work with artisans, it's the quality. Can you tell us more about that and sort of how you developed that? And I guess almost that was a core from the beginning then?
Yes, that was. I mean, our mission was always to bring joy around the table in
Mhm.
an original and exclusive way and for everyone. So when we decided we were going to start this company, the next summer I took a month course in Sicily of Italian, and it was a Carolina course, and none of the students went. So I had private lessons for a month. And Fabio, this man, came over, and in the afternoons after class, we would just start driving around Sicily. And during doing that and knowing where ceramic areas were, we started looking for new vendors. I think one of the most important things I did was I committed to learning the language so that if you're working abroad in anything, you can communicate and get to know that person. So my relationships began with trying to speak their language, being passionate about what they were doing, and also letting them tell me about their art and
Mm,
why they do things and what it looks like. And with doing that, we started working so much more easily in collaboration because they trusted me.
yeah.
So that was kind of the beginning and has been our direction for all these 43 years.
Wow. I think that's a great lesson in there. No matter what your business is, learning the language, whether it's Italian, French, Chinese, German, whatever, but also the language of the industry too, I think is important. So, for example, like I work in PR as my full time business, but I work with primarily like fashion, jewelry, home decor brands. So I actually have a certificate in interior design and a degree in fashion as well, so that I can know what they're talking about, right? Like how a garment's made or what a fabric, a weight of a fabric. And I think when you have a business, it's important to take interest in like all aspects of it, to know how something's made, and then you can speak about the quality better. You can speak with your manufacturer better. So I think that's a great tip right there, Susan.
Yeah, I agree with you, Patricia. Social media has made it so much more easy to show how things are made and to have the authenticity of the people making it. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like if you want to really know about a bank, ask the tellers. If you really want to know about anything, go to the beginning of its creation and talk to the artisans. I always take, some little gift for everybody I see that's American made. And I've been lucky to make a lot of really close friends. We Americans always think, oh, Italians are so wonderful and, da 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 da. But it's an interesting phenomenon. As a Southerner, our kind of motto or rule of thumb is I meet you, I like you, you're my friend. And then it takes about three times of something happening, and I realize maybe we're not the same kind of people to be friends.
Yeah.
Italians do it the opposite. They
Mm.
are warm, but it takes three or four or five times being together, maybe 10. And one day they might invite you to their home. And once you have been invited into their home to sit at their table, you are a friend for life and they
Mhm.
are committed to you. And so I've been able to do this job a long time and meet generations, be in weddings, go to funerals, see babies being christened, etc. So the rule of thumb of working globally is not that different from being the kind of person that respects others and wants to hear the differences,
Yeah.
of the way we think.
Yes, such a good point. So, since the brand is built on sharing a meal with others, I'm curious, like, what are some of your favorite meals you've shared over the years with others? And we'll get into the books too down the line. But I'm curious, like, what's something that stands out in your mind? And even you mentioned, Italians inviting you into their home to share a meal. So, are there any that really stick out or stories behind those?
Yeah, there are a couple. One is I am probably one of a handful of women in America that's on a fraternity board.
Wow.
And I was asked when this fraternity of fabulous guys got into trouble during COVID having a party. And
Mm,
I was asked because they needed some female kind of hand in this as well. Well,
yeah.
I now every year after Rush invite all the boys of the fraternity over. And the upperclassmen are just cannot wait because what I do is I put all the pledges, I say, okay, we're going to have a contest and we have an etiquette contest.
Mm.
And this is after they've either eaten huge amounts of chili or barbecue or, you know, uh,
Good Southern cook.
good Southern cooking. So
Yes.
their
Yeah.
tummies are full and we go outside and we just have a blast. So for me, being around young people and being kind of part of their curiosity is a lot of fun. Bill
Mhm.
and I have quite a few gatherings, and we always try to have them of different ages because we're in, what would be called the twilight years now, and we certainly love people your age. So
Oh,
that's also a way in a town like Chapel Hill to meet different people that they then can connect in the future because most people get tired of being just with the same old crowd all the time. So, food wise, that if it's the summer, I'll do an old family recipe of a shrimp and rice
mm,
curry dish that's cold, and I'll have sliced tomatoes and corn on the cob and things like that because it's refreshing.
mhm.
If it's winter, I will do all sorts of things. I mean, I could have, if it's casual, a big thing of two kinds of chilies and cornbread. I could do a lamb because we don't eat that much lamb that's stuffed with kind of herbs and vinegar and oil and olives. And I love doing that. I try to do something that is seasonal
Okay.
and that is fresh,
Mhm.
and whether it's going to be a stand up small plate kind of group of people or if it's going to be that we can seat 10 around a table and have a good time.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that story. And you mentioned having, a variety of people of different ages, of different backgrounds. That always adds to a dinner party, makes it more interesting. Do you have any tips then for hosting in terms of making people feel welcome?
If you're going to have a lot of people that don't know each other,
Mhm.
it might sound tacky, but I swear people love a name tag.
Yeah.
And we've done things where it's a name and then how we know them, or a name and I ask them all to write one word that describes them on it or nothing,
Yeah.
but it cuts the ice
Mhm.
for people that are not used to being around strangers, or they're much younger to older people, or there are, people that they're kind of in awe of, and how do they approach them? And it just kind of cuts all the ice and everybody has a great time.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend that. And then I would really think about, depending upon how many, where people sit. And
Mhm.
I almost always split up couples. And I try to think of personalities and ages and how they sit so that, let's say, in our kind of open type of house style, we could do a table easily for 8 or 10 and another table for 6. And so I would say 16 is max. Now, we've had seated 50 people in this house and almost killed ourselves, but it just all depends upon the environment.
Yeah.
Another thing people really appreciate and we love to do is, if you have a friend, a cousin, or someone for hire that's not too expensive, have a musician.
Mm.
Or there's somebody that's written a book or somebody that's in town to give a lecture. Invite them and ask them if they'll speak for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a way of raising the level of the conversation and bringing in a surprise.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of those things.
Those are great ideas. I love the name tag idea because I do think it's awkward asking someone to reintroduce themselves if you might have already met them in passing one time.
Exactly.
And I love the idea of putting like how you met them, how you know them. I think that's a fun little twist to it.
Yeah. Good.
So let's talk about the books because I have your second one right here. And I know before this, even you wrote another. So I'd love to hear, maybe let's start with how you wrote the first one. Like, what was the inspiration to that? And then I think that'll lead to why you wrote the second, right?
There you go. So all these years, I've been asked many, many times to write a memoir, write a cookbook, write a travel book. And I'm getting ready to write a business book,
Oh,
but which will be great for women entrepreneurs. But I kept being asked, and one night in the middle of the night, I thought, I'm going to do this as a combination. So I wrote down people and places that were really interesting to me that I thought others would enjoy, that were not necessarily the places that you always think about. So it's kind of the same way as having a party,
mm,
mixing the ages, mixing the experiences. And then I wrote about them. And I then called them once I kind of saw that I had a group that worked well together in different locations. And I called each one and told them what I was thinking about and would they mind being in the book. And luckily, they all said yes. And I jokingly said, well, I was going to do it anyway, but I wouldn't. But once I did that, then Bill and I went over, Bill's my husband, we went over with a team of 2 people from Vietri, and then we had met these 3 fabulous Italian women. And we went to each of these places and either photographed with them
wow.
or at the restaurant etc.
Mm,
And then I asked each of them for family recipes. So
mm.
the first book was called Italy on a Plate: Memoirs, Menus, and Adventures. And so it's more menus. It could be risottos, it could be a wonderful type of ravioli or a type of lasagna. If it's at the sea, it would be my favorite, which is a fish baked with all the Mediterranean vegetables.
Ooh.
So that's how it came together. And
Okay.
then Frances Mays, who wrote Under the Tuscan Sun, is a great friend of mine, and she was saying, Susan, don't go to a publisher. You should self-publish, which
Okay.
meant that we jobbed it out and let somebody do it so that our graphic designers could put their mark on the books. So
Mm,
every dish that is photographed on a Vietri plate in a Vietri glass with Vietri flatware or napkins and
amazing.
placemats, and it just created beautiful pictures.
And good marketing.
It was great, and the first book has sold over 25,000 copies, and I get so many people talking about how easy and delicious the recipes are. And that is what it was supposed to do. It also gave people ideas about travel.
Mm,
So in the second book, Italy in a Glass, which is about adventures, aperitivi, antipasti, it's small plates. It's how to entertain standing up as well as sitting down.
okay.
And I actively made sure that I was in different other parts of Italy. And we also added in the back a travels with Susan. So we identified the places the stories came from and their addresses, so that gave people even an easier way to read these, be in touch with people, and enjoy these experiences. So those are the two: memoirs, recipes, and adventures, and of course a cookbook that I put together.
How long did this take you to put together? I mean, because it has, like you said, beautiful imagery. I mean, there's so many recipes. Like, how long did this take?
Well, if I'm for the first two, I was so gun ho that I could write, just sit down and write and write and write. And so it took us probably the first book 2 years because we were planning it out. The
Okay.
second book, just a year for
Wow.
everything. And I'm in the midst of finishing up the research for Italy on a coast, and that will impact all the coastlines of Italy. But I might hold that one off
Okay.
and write this business book that people are asking me to do. That'll be something like The Work of Many Hands, The Life of a Female Entrepreneur. And because I'm real excited about that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I am retired from running Vietri day to day.
Okay.
I have fabulous people running it. My CEO is 40 years old, and she was with me for 11 years before I retired. Our VP of design was with me 10 years before I handed and working directly with me. So we have long standing employees who love what they're doing, are given a lot of freedom to talk and brainstorm, and I get to mentor them and write books and travel. So life is good.
Seriously. Well, the book beautiful, I have to say. I love how, like you mentioned, it blends perfectly your personal stories and connection to these people, amazing recipes and cocktails, some travel tips. Like, I think it's just done so beautifully, and then wrapped up with gorgeous pictures. So, and I know myself and my listeners will be so excited for your business book too. So, cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, yeah.
For someone then who's listening and then going online right now, ordering the book, what recipe would you say to start off with, or definitely check out and try first?
I adore crusted asparagus. And
Crusted.
what it is, it's just fresh, raw asparagus
Mm-hmm.
that you make a batter that's, it has flour and salt and pepper and soda water of all things and a couple of other things in it. And you take the asparagus and you dip it in them and you roll them in sesame seeds.
Okay.
And then you make a very hot oil, canola oil, not olive oil because that burns. And you just dip them in and let them turn golden and bring them out. They're not greasy and they're delicious if you cut them in half as appetizers or with anything, a piece of fish, a piece of meat, or just a vegetable plate. So I would say that, and then a gorgonzola tart, which
Okay.
is a pastry shell, with gorgonzola and cream and an egg and a little bit of flour and some herbs. Easy, savory, wonderful with a real fresh glass of white wine or rosé or a light Pinot. So
Mm.
those are the two I would choose.
It's funny, the asparagus stood out to me too when I was going through. I was like, I need to make this. It looks delicious. So I'm glad you
Yeah,
said that
they
one.
are yeah, they're delicious.
And it
Your
didn't
hands will
seem
be
too
messy.
hard.
Yeah, no, nothing is hard in these books. And that's the other part. I mean, so many of them have 5 ingredients, and that's how Italians eat. That's why they stay fit.
Yes, totally. So I'm curious then on the Vietri side, what's the bestseller, and then what's your personal favorite piece right now?
The best sellers right now are what you said, the hibiscus vases.
Okay.
And this is a great story. Ernest Hemingway loved to drink, and he would go to a place called Harry's Bar in Venice. And they had a three spout pitcher with
Okay.
a handle. And so he could pour it any way he wanted if he had wine or if he had, already made mimosas or whatever. Well, I was in there so many times, and once I was there and I kept looking at it, and I had bought one of these vases at a market, and I thought, I'm going to remove that handle and add another lip because the size is perfect for a flower vase, and flowers having the stems able to go in different directions, it would hold flowers so beautifully. And that's what I did. And with that, we were able to create what we call the hibiscus vase because it looks a bit like a hibiscus. The small ones are boxed in Vietri boxes, so all you have to do is put a ribbon on them. But they go to nice size, big, round dining room table size, down to little ones that I have a rectangular table, so I'll put 5 of them with different flowers on the table with little votives around it, or one beside a bed if we have guests staying. And they are the perfect birthday gift, bridesmaids gift, wedding gift, because everybody loves flowers,
Yeah.
and it's just easy to be able to make a beautiful arrangement. So that would be the number one selling
Okay.
piece.
I love that story. And like I said, it's my favorite of yours too.
Yeah. As far as favorite piece right now, it's the summer, so we're selling a lot of fish, and I love a group that is multicolored fish that are swimming around the table because they look great with any color of our paper soft napkins, which is my other favorite item because they're made of recycled lace and they cost pennies more than going to the grocery store, but they're really soft. And
Okay.
they come in stripes and polka dots and with fringe edges, etc. And I take these fish plates and I will put them on a white dinner plate and use a bright colored placemat or a white placemat, but then use a yellow polka dot napkin or blue or whatever, green, I love green, beside it to create something that's happy and seasonal. So I would say right now it's the fish plates.
Fish are definitely having a moment, I feel like right now in fashion and decor, they're all over, right?
Right, all over, yes.
So,
And so is green, like that precious dress you have on. So you're
yes,
very stylish.
thank you. Thank you so much. Green is one of my favorite colors too. My most of my house is painted green, honestly. And it's funny, I always tell this story, but one of my interior design teachers had told me green's a neutral because in nature it goes with everything, right?
It's true. When I graduated from college, my parents gave me a ring that had uh, an that had two diamonds and an emerald, but I also had an aquamarine that they had given me, and I said, "But can I wear them at the same time?" And Mama said, "It's nature. The green of the grass and the blue of the sky. Absolutely." And I'll never forget that.
Same. That quote from my interior designer always, or interior designer teacher always sticks with me. I love that story you just shared too because it's so true.
Yep,
Yep.
so true.
So, since this is the Preppy podcast, I always ask everyone, what does Preppy mean to you? So, how would you describe Preppy?
I love that question. You know, for me, that word has changed a lot through my time when I was your age to today. I use the word preppy for me means prepared.
Mm,
It's someone who wants, who enjoys creating joy,
yep.
enjoys creating an environment for themselves and others.
Yes.
It's not necessarily someone whose things look exactly like everybody else's. I think in my young days, it was so much more that you wore papagallos, you wore pink and green, you only joined a certain sorority, you were mostly Southern. I don't think that's it anymore. I think it's a more sophisticated woman, and she knows what she likes, but she also understands design. She has studied it, or she loves it, or it's innate with her.
Mm.
So I would say it's a prepared woman for her life today and the future.
I love that. That is such a good answer. I feel like that needs to be framed somewhere. Or in a book,
Good,
your business
good.
book.
Oh,
So then, what's a tip that you can give listeners in terms of business, or maybe it's a resource to check out, like just a lasting tip or resource for entrepreneurs or business?
um, I'll give you a book and I'll give you a tip.
Perfect.
The book that I love and never gets old, and I love sports,
Hmm.
is a book written by Dean Smith, who used to be the UNC basketball coach,
Okay.
and Jerry Bell, who was his age and taught leadership. And the book is called The Carolina Way: Leadership Lessons from Coaching. But what he always said was something that said, play hard, play smart, and play together.
Mm.
And I used those words in a series of children's books I wrote that were about, they were trying to take food and toys and medicine around the world, and they didn't know how to do it. And they went to see their favorite teacher who told them to do that. And I think those things are true because we are innately risk takers.
Yes.
And with that, we've got to know that we're going to make mistakes, that
Hmm.
we're going to learn from them,
Hmm.
and that we put value on the mistake as much as the success. But
Hmm.
the mistakes also have a price that we have to judge, right? So, and the other part is we must do it together.
Yeah.
That the world is so much better when we are listening and we're brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that that's the book and those are the lessons. Don't be so hard on yourself. Keep going and remember that learning is lifelong.
Yes, that's great. I feel like I needed to hear that message today. It's one of those entrepreneur weeks where you're like, oh, this is hard. But so
It
that's
is hard.
perfect timing and, brings it full circle of like, remember why you're in this. It'll get better. Everything works out. Just keep at it, right? And I'm excited to check out that book that you mentioned. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, do look it up. It's really a great book, and it's just the Carolina Way. It's a very easy read, and it's good for everybody, for guys, for women. And just a word to you:
Yeah.
there are always going to be hard times.
Yes.
You're going to always feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
You are the different parts of your life is going to be easier and harder.
Yeah.
But don't make a decision at night, sleep on it, and let things evolve.
Yes.
If your values are right and your mission is your mission, it all works out. It
Mhm.
does. So you just keep going, but give
Yeah.
yourself a break.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Susan.
You're
Well,
welcome.
my final question is where can people find you, shop, follow along, get the book, like any social media handles, websites, let them know that.
Yes, always go to vietri.com. You can see anything. You can join our websites. There's a susaneGravely.com as well. We are opening our first retail store, which we're so excited about, in Chapel Hill, the beginning of September. And we will have a website for that. And we'll be bringing in things that we don't sell at wholesale.
Okay.
So that's exciting. And on all of these sites, you can always see sometimes calendars of what we're doing and where we're going to be. And we have Italian vendors that come and do store events, etc. So, and Amazon is a great place to buy the books,
Yeah.
the children's books as well as the two cookbooks.
Excellent. Well, Susan, this truly was a pleasure talking with you today. I loved learning more about you and your business and all of your words of wisdom. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much and happy summer.
Thank you so much for listening to the Preppy Podcast. I hope this put a little prep in your step for the day. Please subscribe, rate, and review on wherever you listen to your podcast, and follow along with @the Preppy Podcast on social media.